Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Judge Janine Pirro, Harold Ford Jr., Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 4 o'clock in Milwaukee, and this is the 5 live at the RNC. The Republican Party uniting like never before. 3 days after a would-be assassin tried to take him out, former President Trump sporting a bandage on his bullet-grazed ear and getting a rock star welcome at the RNC.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again, just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today.
Compare the love and unity to the backstabbing and dysfunction that is the Democratic Party. The Dems are united in confusion over what to do about the doddering old man who refuses to get out of the race. Joe Biden lecturing Americans to lower the temperature on heated political rhetoric after the attempt on Trump's life. But does this sound toned down to you? Listen.
My first reaction was, my God, look, there's so much violence now, the way we talk about it. Lester, I got in this race early on in 2020, for the 2020 race. I wasn't going to run again because I had lost my son. I didn't feel it. And until I watched what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. Those folks coming out of the woods with torches, carrying swastikas. The then president was asked, what do you think? He said, they're very fine people on both sides. Not fine people on both sides. No excuse, zero.
And the liberal media isn't down with cooling things off either. Joy Reid is upset that Trump gets treated like a victim of his own shooting.
People are concerned and expressing concern that we won't be the guardians of memory and that we will allow Donald Trump, as he is, bathed in the glory and grandeur of his party, to rewrite himself as both a hero and a victim. The idea of political violence that we've been nursing really since then is so dangerous. Yeah. It's so dangerous that you cannot avoid the consequences of it, even if you're one of the people promoting it.
Holt asks the president what went through your mind when you saw your opponent almost get shot by an assassin, Greg. And he says, what went through my mind was January 6th and fine people hoax.
Yeah, that was quick. Right? Let's dial down the rhetoric. By the way, fine people are Nazis, said Donald Trump. That was the tentpole hoax that gave cover for all the hoaxes and created the Trump is Hitler hoax. Talking about it for 6 years, finally got to the point where Snopes admitted it. The only comfort that we have is that that idiot is irrelevant. He's reviled and absurd. It's the only reason why nobody is correcting him. Like, wouldn't somebody pull him aside and say, you do understand that makes you look like an abject fool? Even Lester Holt is like, I would, but this guy's gone. Who cares? If I were a Democrat, I would run from Joe like he's a leper on fire. At this point, he should run. No, Democrats should tell Joe to go and replace him with Jussie Smollett. He's got the same story, but he's half the age. Joy Reid. So you know what Joy Reid is? If this were a movie, you're watching a certain group of people realizing they are the villains in the movie.
Yeah.
We saw that. They didn't see it coming, but we saw it coming. She's now pivoted from comparing Trump to Hitler to comparing Trump to George Wallace. So I give her a few days, she's going to compare Trump to Chad from The Bachelor. She has nowhere else to go. And then you have them finally giving Secret Service protection to RFK Jr. This is another admission that they were wrong, and that they're in danger of having another person killed for their own political reasons. I just want to say that, conservatives, liberals, everybody noticed that Trump looked different last night, and he seemed different. And I think it's because he is. I think even Harold said it. And I think it's because he's gone from being an outsized personality to something bigger, a legend. I'm not going to say a religious figure, but in some cases, men don't choose their fate. Their fate chooses them. And I don't think Trump has a choice anymore in elevating himself to some kind of higher calling. Whether you think he's crass or arrogant, you know, that call didn't come from inside the House. It came from somewhere else. And I think he's realizing it. The way America is seeing these real moments where it's impossible to maintain your cynicism, you can't be numb to this. This is a story that has broken through the silos. Doesn't take much, you know, to get Democrats to protest, but for Republicans, it's different. I think you're going to see a different kind of Republican where this isn't really going to be a vote in November. It's going to be a vow. You know, it's a change where it's like politics. It used to be politics is personal for Democrats. It's personal and more for Republicans.
You've known 45 for a while, Janine. The look on his face, I'd never seen that look before. What was that look? It was a different man.
It was. You know, Katie Pavlich and I, at about 9 o'clock, knowing he was coming out at 9:02 this time, as opposed to the 10:02 Eastern time, we were like two kids trying to find the best vantage place we could find. And he walked in a hero. And this is, I think it's my 5th Republican National Convention. And he got a hero's welcome. It was electric. The excitement was palpable. People were yelling, they were cheering, they were yelling, USA, fight, fight, fight. And you realize that there was a hero that was walking in. It wasn't the normal Donald Trump. This was an inspirational figure. He was courageous. He was strong. It was almost as though he was coming in having been a victor. But there hasn't been a war yet. But he was different. He was somber. It seemed that he was tempered, and maybe he, too, felt the enormity of this moment. This was a historic moment in American history. A president shot within 48, 50 hours, walking into a convention, and within hours saying it's time to unite the country. And I know that everyone I know, and I could see it in other people. I saw it in Don Jr. I mean, we were tearing up because we stepped back, went into ourselves, and realized the enormity of the moment. And, yeah, it was a victor's welcome. And this is bigger than one man. And the vote will be bigger than just for Donald Trump. The vote will be for the America that Donald Trump has been talking about. This is a man who not only escaped an assassin's bullet, he has survived character assassination. He has survived them trying to strip him of his wealth, strip him of his civil liberties. He's coming right off a Supreme Court immunity decision, the classified documents dismissal. He has announced his vice president, and as we say in the law, the issue has been joined. And he's steamrolling his way into this election. And I got to say one thing. I'd like America to think about the fact that Donald Trump was shot. No cities burned down. No businesses were burned. There was no looting. People didn't need to blow off steam. Republicans came together. They cheered. They felt the moment. They understand the message. And this is a new election.
Harold, how'd you feel about that moment last night?
Dana and I were, first of all, it's been a while. It's good to be with everybody. It's good to be with you, too. Good to be here in Milwaukee. Dana and I were on set last night when President Trump made his way to the arena and walked in. And I shared very succinctly that as an American, I felt a strong sense of pride, a strong sense of patriotism and a civility and a pride in my country. That shooter didn't just shoot Donald Trump. He shot at the institution of the presidency of the United States. There's no president, there's no institution of the presidency in the world more important, more venerated than ours. And I think for the world to see Donald Trump like that, I think the subdued look on his face, what Dana said it best last night as well, it was a combination, I think, of gratitude, relief, and I think kind of a renewed, to your point, Judge, kind of a renewed sense of purpose. Even when he pumped his fist, he didn't look weak. It was just a different guy. Mm-hmm. And I am hopeful, and I think Democrats were talking about this as well, that we've got to figure out ways to reduce the noise around vitriol and violence and to elevate the notion that we're going to have differences and divisions on issues, but they should be passionate, but we shouldn't. It should be ideas, not bullets, that really define this. Finally, we're going to get to a point where the case about Biden or whomever Democrats choose, and I think Democrats are going to reach a point, and hopefully we talk about this a little later, where I think we're beginning to understand that the case against President Trump, political case, cannot be litigated politically as effectively by President Biden as perhaps it can be by another candidate. So I hope that when we do get to that point, that the American people understand that there's nothing wrong with us disagreeing. There's nothing wrong with us saying, I think my way of cutting taxes or my way of dealing with education or national security is better than yours. I just hope we don't fight about it. And I hope we have a serious conversation. And I think the country deserves a very serious conversation about what Mr. Trump and Mr. Vance, and congratulations to Senator Vance, and what they want to do and what the Democrats want to do as we head into the fall.
The split screen between Joe Biden, who looks smaller and smaller and more petty and partisan, and Donald Trump, who, as Janine said, he looks almost vulnerable and more inspirational and above it all than ever.
Once again, the communications of this White House and their campaign just baffles me. I don't understand why they're even trying to compete with him this week. Why? They should have canceled the Lester Holt interview for a lot of reasons, but they had a great reason to. They could have said, given the events of Saturday, President Biden is focused on the investigation, going to let the Republicans have their convention this week. Because the comparison and the split screen is awful. And wait till you see the C block. I got a little gift for you from the Lester Holt interview coming up. Because last night what you saw also is President Trump in that moment. It's a Make America Wealthy Again. But it was also about diversifying the party. So he's trying to expand the map and build a new coalition. And so what you basically have today is this is as good an electoral map as Republicans are ever going to see, at least in recent memory. Virginia now in play, Minnesota now in play. Elise Stefanik tells us this morning that New York is within single digits. New Jersey's in single digits. We're talking about New Hampshire possibly. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk for Donald Trump. I don't. I know that it's going to get tighter as we go closer. But if Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Nevada do not appear at all close, and you have Biden doing an interview with Lester Holt trying to convince his party that he can hold it together for the next 4 months, let alone the next 4 years, and competing with Donald Trump after an assassination attempt when he gets a hero's welcome, it's baffling to me.
Yeah, this election has changed. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.